I come from a family of combat veterans going back a long time. And my comment is the use of certain words and what they imply. When I hear warrior ethos, and I hear it a lot from you, Mr. Secretary, I'm concerned. All the soldiers in our family, all of whom fought and received medals for their combat service, call themselves soldiers. Marines are trained to kill. In terms of domestic policing, our police and our National Guard at the state level, carefully used, but also our state police are used in civil enforcement, and they are good. I don't need any reply. I just am concerned about what those words you often utter actually do in people's minds and change the language we have used since the founding of this republic. So that is a concern of mine. I wanted to go to the General and Chairman, if I could. We've heard a lot this morning about defense industrial base. And this is something I ran for office on a long time ago. We have not made significant progress as a country in this regard. And the places that made things, whether they were machine tools, whether it was composite materials, were left behind. It's one of the reasons for the division in our society. So I am very interested in knowing what specifically and in which accounts, and I hope you can get this back to us within a week and a half, you are going to focus on in order to inject additional resources in the defense industrial base of this country. What will that look like? We are just successful now in helping steel to revive and some of our composite metals. 40 years ago, I wrote a title to the defense bill dealing with strategic metals. Nobody at Department of Defense cared, okay? So I'm interested in which accounts, if you could kindly get back to me on that, and when you say defense industrial base, budget-wise, in which accounts, what does that mean? All right, I don't expect you to answer it now. Can you tell me when you might get that information back to us?
Well, ma'am, you just said a week and a half, so I know the awesome humans behind me are scribbling madly to come back to that. Can I just make a quick comment? You know, I happen to be a lucky guy that served in the private sector for a while, and I ran a machine shop in Texas along with a metal finishing business. So when we talk about defense industrial base, I broaden that out to really the national industrial base. There are certain components that are made in the defense side, but as you articulate, ma'am, many others are made in the small machine shops out around this entire nation. When I talk about mobilizing our nation, I think of that national, not just defense industrial base. What do we have to do to create greater capacity all the way down the chain to include jobs at the local level for those people that build quality parts and deliver on time with shorter lead time and lower cost? And so I have great empathy for what you're talking about, and we'll get back to you just as soon as we can.
Yes, and General and Secretary, going back to the drone attack in Ukraine, a country that was invaded by the Russian dictatorship, starting in 2014. They've been at war for a decade, more than a decade. What they've done with drones is astounding. It's going to change warfare. One of my questions is, what are you doing to establish relations with Ukraine and not turn your back on them as an administration and help them win, help liberty win? This has implications way beyond the boundaries of Ukraine. Russia's got 11 time zones. I mean, this is the most important test of liberty for our NATO alliance in my lifetime, and we better help win. And that involves moving forward faster on drone technology. I'm very worried about our air bases where we have secure assets. Mr. Secretary, can we defend them today if they were to have a similar attack?
We're certainly very focused on that, ma'am. And we're learning every day from Ukraine. I think we would need to clarify what win means. This president is committed to peace. He's committed to stopping the killing. And he was not in office when it started in 2014. There were no additional incursions in his first term. And then under the previous administration, Vladimir Putin sought to take Ukraine. We're committed this administration's committed to peace, to stopping the killing, and we think that serves
Did you just
American
leave
interests.
Ukraine, Mr. Secretary? Did you just leave Ukraine?
Young lady's time's expired, but if you can get
I did
back
not leave Ukraine.
to us on that.
No,
that
Have
would
you
be great.
visited Ukraine?
No, ma'am.
My first trip
No.
there, sir, was
Young lady's
1973. I
time
yield back.
has expired. Mr. Carter, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
For your service to our country. We're very proud of you. I'm fully supportive of the Army's outgoing modernization efforts and the recent Army Transformation Initiative that combined the Army's Future Command with TRADOC to become the Transformational and Training Command. How are you?
When Representative Marcy Kaptur took the microphone and challenged Pete Hegseth on his use of the phrase warrior ethos, it may have sounded like a simple quibble over language, but it was much more than that. Words in politics are never neutral, and in this case, Kaptur was pressing on something that cuts to the very heart of how America understands its military and its role in society. The phrase warrior ethos might sound noble, even inspiring, but Kaptur reminded us that it carries unintended consequences. Soldiers in her family, veterans who fought bravely and received medals for their service, never referred to themselves as warriors. They were soldiers, they were defenders, they were disciplined professionals serving a republic, not conquerors fighting endless battles. That difference in language reflects a difference in philosophy. If we normalize warrior over soldier, we risk changing how the military sees itself and how the public sees the military. Suddenly, the military is not an instrument of defense and deterrence, but an entity of perpetual combat, prepared to bring war not just abroad, but perhaps into domestic life. That shift may sound subtle, but history shows us that such linguistic changes often precede cultural and political ones. And Kaptur didn't leave it there. She connected this concern to something much broader, the state of America's defense industrial base. For decades, she has watched small machine shops and manufacturing hubs across the country, the very backbone of local economies, disappear. These weren't just jobs, they were the foundation of national resilience, the ability to build, innovate, and mobilize quickly in times of crisis. When America loses its industrial capacity, it doesn't just lose economic power, it loses strategic independence. It becomes reliant on other nations, sometimes even rivals, for the very parts and materials that keep the military running. So when she asked where new resources are being invested and what accounts are being prioritized, she was really asking whether America is serious about rebuilding itself, not just rhetorically, but structurally. Can we still be the nation that both fights and manufactures, that both defends and produces? Or are we letting the industrial spirit that once defined America slip further away? Then came the discussion of Ukraine. For over a decade, Ukraine has been the testing ground of liberty against authoritarian aggression. The rise of drone warfare there is not just a regional development, it's a revolution in how wars will be fought. Ukraine's innovation in this space has been astounding, showing how a smaller nation, under siege, can outmaneuver a larger power through technology and creativity. The question is whether the United States is truly learning from this, or whether it's stuck in an outdated model of warfare, too slow to adapt, too cautious to innovate. And when Hegseth responded by emphasizing peace and the administration's position, it exposed the tension between rhetoric and reality. Because supporting peace is easy to say, but how do you achieve peace when authoritarian regimes like Putin's interpret hesitation as weakness? How do you ensure stability when the tools of modern war, drones, cyber, and industrial capacity, are advancing faster than our policies? Kaptur's line of questioning revealed more than just disagreement. It revealed competing visions of America's identity, one that sees itself as a perpetual warrior state versus one that insists on being a disciplined republic, one that either rebuilds its industrial core or drifts into dependency, one that either stands firmly with democratic allies or risks being outpaced by aggressors. This hearing was about much more than semantics. It was about the language that shapes culture, the industries that sustain power, and the global conflicts that define the 21st century. And that's why it matters to all of us. Because whether we call soldiers warriors, whether we invest in machine shops and steel plants, whether we stand firmly with Ukraine, these choices will define not just U.S. foreign policy, but the kind of nation America will be at home. So as you think about this exchange, ask yourself, what kind of America do you want to see? A republic grounded in defense and discipline, or a state drifting toward endless war? A nation that can still build and innovate for itself, or one dependent on fragile supply chains? A country that leads in defending democracy abroad, or one that hesitates until it's too late? If you care about these questions, keep engaging, keep learning, and keep pressing your leaders for real answers. And if you want more deep dives into hearings like this, moments that reveal far more than meets the eye, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is about more than politics. It's about the future of democracy itself.